Baldy, before we get to the football, what about your Yankees? You think it's over tonight for the Yankees? You think they got some fight in them?
I hope they have some fight. I mean, that's about as embarrassing, a series as you can recall, what's been going on so far. So, there's football scores being put up on them right now, I mean, the Jets would gladly take those amount of runs that they're putting up right now.
Yep.
So it's not, it hasn't been good to this point. But, everything can change in an instant. We've seen it before, but it's got to change quickly.
Speaking of embarrassing, let's get to the local football teams here. Let's start with the Giants, who had a very disappointing loss. Rookie mistakes all over the place. What'd you see from Jackson Dart in his start number 2 in New Orleans?
Well, I mean, he takes him right down the field again, and, they put up a score. He's a great runner, but, the fumble was careless, just to get the ball knocked out of his hands right there in that spot. That's just a careless fumble right there. But, it was just disappointing because of the mistakes. The Slayton fumble was horrible right before the half. That was a turnaround. They scored a field goal off of that. The Scatterboo fumble was unfortunate because, it opened the game up when they're going in to score. All 3 fumbles happening in Saints territory. Those mistakes are hard to overcome on the road, especially if your defense isn't taking the ball away.
Yeah, and listen, Baldy, you know that some mistakes, and you kind of alluded to this here, are just careless and sloppy for sure. But others, for young players, it takes a little bit of time to get used to the speed of the game. In terms of the speed of the game and processing, what are you seeing from Dart through 2 games?
Well, I think he sees the game pretty good. I mean, you got the throwback, down the field, like all those deep throws to Slayton and Hyatt would normally be going to Malik Neighbors. You probably catch at least 2 of the 5. Maybe that changed the game, but we know he's not there. The throwback, I thought he underthrew Slayton a little bit. He still could have caught it. And then I thought he threw a good one to Slayton that he dropped. It was perfectly thrown. So, they're not getting any explosive plays, in the passing game. And that's what all they talked about in the offseason was explosive plays. They took their shots. They didn't come up with any. So when you don't get explosive plays in this business, especially out of the passing game, you're probably not going to score a whole lot more than 14 points.
Yep. Let us ask you a bigger picture issue. Are the Giants a well-coached team?
They do things. They're coached, and I think they're listening to their coaches. The offensive line played pretty good against a good front. But that's a team that doesn't have a win. And to go down there and not win, you've got to say that when you have one win, when you 1-4, nobody can say you're a well-coached team.
Yeah, well,
no matter what happens, you're not well-coached.
Yeah, now listen, Tennessee is horrendous, and we also, even though they won, we also know their coach doesn't even know the rule book. So, I mean, that is a horrendously coached team. The Giants have a lot more talent. I don't like every other week, the defense shows up, then it doesn't. Then it shows, I don't think the Giants are well coached, and I think they have more talent. They should be better than this.
They should be better. I mean, look, the Saints played a rookie guard that went to North Carolina Central, Torricelli Simpkins, never played in the NFL. He made his first NFL start. I just thought Dexter Lawrence would just destroy him. Now, he gave up some plays. Don't get me wrong. Kayvon, backed him up a couple times, but it's not like he embarrassed himself out there. You wouldn't even know he was out there, which is a good thing. But I just think you get a player like that, you got to make that. You got to welcome that guy to the NFL, and I don't think they did that. And so I don't know. Sometimes the players got to go make plays, and they got to. There should be holding calls on that kid. There should be all kinds of stuff. Pressure on Spencer Rattler more than there was, and you get a deep shot down the field to Rashid Shaheed that changed the game. There wasn't enough pressure on the quarterback to not make that throw, and he had enough time to go air that one out. That's disappointing.
BT Sal on the Fan. We're talking about Brian Baldinger. Insider calls are brought to you by Nationwide for your insurance and financial needs. Nationwide is on your side. So is the defense thing, is that a scheme thing? Is it the players not doing enough? I mean, it doesn't make any sense with all the players that they have. They should be wreaking havoc in the opponent's backfield, and yet it seems they're sitting back. Is it scheme? What's going on there with the Giants, D. Baldy?
They didn't just seem aggressive enough to me. The week before against the Chargers, they seemed aggressive, whether it's twist stunts or blitzes. But I don't know. I mean, maybe you're up 14-0. You don't want to give up a big play. You're kind of sitting back. You're not trying to put that team away. You're just not trying to get beat and things like that. And so then you get the big play. I thought they could have been a whole lot more aggressive against that team. That quarterback has not been a good quarterback. He hasn't really been the reason why they've lost games. They've got good players in certain places. They've got some speed on the outside with Olavi and Shaheed. But I think you got to, like it's the old Rex Ryan thing. You hit him early in the game, he's going to give you two late in the game. And I didn't feel like they got aggressive enough early in that game against that guy.
Baldy, let's push it forward a little bit here. Obviously a big one in terms of eyeballs and storyline. Saquon against his old team here Thursday night. I mean, the Eagles they look different, man. What is going on with them?
Well, I feel like they're spending a lot of time trying to cater to their wide receivers who weren't getting the ball enough. I mean, Saquon had one carry in the fourth quarter. They got skunked 18-0 in the fourth quarter by Denver. They were up 17-3. They didn't even include him in the offense. He scored the biggest touchdown of the day for him on a little wheel route out of the backfield. He looked like Saquon. And then they just completely went away from him from the middle of the third quarter all the way through the end of the game. But he's not getting the type of runways that he got a year ago when he was literally the best player in the league. So it's a little bizarre. Maybe after that debacle and collapse against Denver on Sunday, maybe they'll decide maybe Saquon should be our best player, and maybe we should put the ball in his hands a whole lot more than they are.
You think? I'm sorry, Sal. I was going to follow up. Do you think maybe because he had so much usage a year ago that they're just kind of easing into the start of the season and unleash him as they get deeper, gets colder out? You think?
No,
Okay.
He didn't have any injuries. I saw him in the offseason.
Okay.
He was on the golf course like he likes to do in his free time, but I saw him in OTAs. He looked fine. And you'd see him on a wheel route go 47 yards for a touchdown against that defense, and he just ran away from everybody. I think the speed is still there. He just hasn't gotten – I've seen him go against Kansas City 13 yards right up the middle untouched. I feel like he's still got the same ability. And even though he had 450-plus touches a year ago in 20 games, I feel like none of that has worn him down at all.
Unfortunately, Baldy, you talk about the big plays with the Giants. Well, they don't have their best wide receiver, one of the best in the game, and Malik Neighbors. And I was very critical of Slayton. You mentioned the drops. I'm infuriated watching Slayton for years here. I don't think he belongs in the NFL. You watch the film. You played in the league. What do you think of Darius Slayton, who I know he's banged up and he might not play anyway, but trying to fill that void of a number one receiver for the Giants?
Well, I mean, I always thought, he's from Auburn, and I remember talking to him early on, like he was a legit deep threat, maybe his first 2 years in the league, whatever. Like, he doesn't look like he can run the same anymore. Like, on that fumble recovery for a touchdown, that's a defensive back there. Like, I thought he would at least close the ground on that defensive back, running it back for a touchdown. And I didn't see it. Like, I don't know that he has the same speed that he once had. Now, he's in the league, 7-8 years, so maybe he has slowed down, but I don't see great deep speed from him right now.
So, Baldy, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you don't know, it's all good because I know you're in the trenches really doing the NFL stuff. I was telling Sal and our listeners that if there's one game Jet fans have to pay attention to this weekend in college, it's going to be Oregon and Indiana, 3:30 kick on CBS. Dante Moore for Oregon, Fernando Mendoza for Indiana. Do you have a preference of the two? Just trying to get an early read on the quarterback market, because let's face it, Jets are going to be picking very early and will be picking a quarterback.
Yeah, they should. I don't have a preference right now. It's too early. It's only 5 games. I saw Moore have a good game against Penn State, a couple weeks ago in Happy Valley there. Mm-hmm. Played well. And I know Indiana's, off to the races here. They wiped up Illinois a couple weeks ago, I think, in their last game that they played. Yeah. Mendoza's been good. But, they're basically one-year players. So, I mean, in their respective programs. Now, if I could go back and study them in other places, you got to do that, when these guys are coming through the portal now. They're, 1-year stops. But I haven't studied them enough right now to say, like, this is going to be Baker Mayfield. I don't know.
Understood. Let me ask you this way then, and trust me, I hear you. But does it seem on any level like it's a false elevation that they could be going that early and could potentially be franchise quarterbacks?
Well, that process really starts, during the bowl season, Senior Bowl, those kind of things, and then the college football playoff. It starts during then, and then it's a long process. I mean, nobody thought Dylan Gabriel would be the starter in Cleveland. He played really well, against Minnesota, and he was a third-round pick. It's just hard to evaluate these guys at this time of the year right now until you sit down, you talk to them, you find out what they're all about. Even if you went back and you watched Ole Miss last year after 5 games, would you trade up in the first round to take Jackson Dart after 5 games last year? I don't know that you would have done that, but the body of work, getting to know the guy, the whole off season where you get a chance to work them out, go to the comp, all the things that you do. That's a whole separate process.
Baldy, any concerns that Aaron Glenn might be overmatched?
Well, I mean, if you watched the game last night, and I know you did, Jacksonville had the fewest takeaways in the NFL a year ago. They were dreadful. Liam Cohen comes in, new defense coordinator, Anthony Campanile. They got 14 takeaways in the biggest one of the season on the interception return. The guy Devin Lloyd's been in this league now for a while. He leads the league in interceptions. Something like, if you want to turn things around, take the ball away. And the Jets don't have a takeaway. Like, they don't even get their hands on footballs. So, is he overmatched? I don't know. If you want to get competitive, figure out a way to take the ball away. Now, that starts in practice, punching it out, all the different drills that you can do. And they're not doing any of that right now on the field. That's an indictment on the coach.
Yeah, I know.
And in this part, it's just, I don't know how many fans are sitting there and watching all these games with the Jets. They can't run a play without a mistake. And some of this stuff is just stupid. Without a pre-snap penalty, without somebody falling down, without the ball getting on the ground. They can't run a play without an error. What are they doing during the week? That is all comes under the head coach.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's a problem. All right, Baldy, we appreciate the time as always. Looking forward to talking to you next week.
All right, guys, you got it.
Let's go Yanks, buddy. Let's go.
That was Odyssey NFL insider Brian Baldinger, host of the Best Football Show podcast. Insider Calls brought to you by Nationwide. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. Yeah, who would have thought after that Jets performance that the Yankees would be even worse on Sunday?
What a commentary on Glenn. That was some pretty heavy stuff right there. I'm not saying it can't turn around, but that's about as negative a scouting report as you can have for a coach 5 games in.
I also just don't understand it. You're talking about, you could say if it were some dude who has been a lifelong coach but never played. Yeah. Understood.
I hear you.
Overmatched, whatever. This is a guy who had success as a player, worked his ass off through the ranks to get this opportunity, says all the right things, has the right mindset, and yet his team can't do anything right.